Well, I want to welcome you to our program today. We have a very special guest with us. His name is Rick Mim. He's the director of the Dubuque Rescue Mission. And so, Rick, so good to have you with us today.
Very nice to be here.
And so we hear about the Dubuque Rescue Mission, and so why don't you just share some things about all of the various ministries. I know it's not just doing one specific thing, but why don't you share a little bit about the various ministries of the Dubuque Rescue Mission?
Sure. Well, I think most people, if they're aware of the mission, they're aware that we're a homeless shelter for men. And the Dubuque Rescue Mission has been doing that for 84 years now, since 1932. We were founded during the Great Depression. And Reverend William Masters was the pastor at First Baptist, which is off of Asbury out there. And at that time, he and another parishioner from First Congregational were simply making soup for men down in downtown Dubuque that were out of work. And as they were doing these various soups during the week, the same guys kept coming back, and then they were just kind of standing around. And as they inquired about that, they also found out that not only did they not have jobs, they had no places to go. Their flats they were thrown out of their flats because of no money. And so they started housing the men in the upstairs of the two-story house that was at 5th and Iowa, so a block behind us and over, which is now a parking lot. That's where the Dubuque Rescue Mission began. And then in the 1950s, they bought the current building at 4th and Main and has been there since the mid-50s, and has had a number of different ministries and variations, but always with men and the housing needs of men. Connected with that has always been the meal ministry too. So there's have always had, it was then just a lunch meal provided for any people in need. So not only just homeless men, but any people, women, children, elderly, those trying to make their budgets meet by getting a free meal, gives a little extra money for other bills. So since then, as I noted, most people understand that, oh yeah, if there's someone in need that's a guy, they should go to the mission and the mission will help them. However, our largest ministry is feeding the hungry. And if you volunteered or someone has been part of a group volunteering at the mission, it's probably been through our meal ministry, because we access a lot of people through there, and different church folks and people of faith who want to help their brother or sister in need. And so it's a nice introduction to the mission. So we have at the mission breakfast, lunch, and supper every day of the week, except for 3 times the evening meal is on Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday, is at the churches here in town, St. Patrick's Church, St. Luke's, and then United Church of Christ, First Congregational there. So we don't duplicate those meals because they've been doing them for over 20 years each, and so we cancel our meal and people just go to those meals. But otherwise, breakfast, lunch every day of the week, and supper on those days that those parishes aren't doing it. And that involves about 200 people a day is about the number that we serve. So our men and other people that come every day or once a week to access a free meal. Some of them, it's more of it helps save money on a very tight and limited budget, but it also is about the fellowship that happens there. It's not unlike, akin to a bar, but Cheers, the TV show. It is one of those places where everyone sort of knows your name, they're glad you're there, they're happy to see you. And that's what a number of people find a need of theirs, and we meet that need by just being so welcoming of their presence with us.
Yeah, so when you think about needs, it's not just, nutritional needs that's one of our basic needs.
Right.
But that fellowship need, that need of being, that sense of that belonging,
right.
Like the Cheers attitude that everybody's glad that you came.
Yep.
And to be able to interact and and a visit, and so everybody kind of gets to know one another.
Right. Yeah, and that's a real emotional, spiritual need, that need of belonging. And for, especially for many of the men, they really struggle with that, because when they're standing outside, or you have the label of homelessness, they feel like people don't see them, or they're not there even when they're passing by. And it doesn't mean that people on the streets or the businesses that are surrounding the mission don't care. It's just our not knowing what to do with a homeless person, you know, that's standing right before me. And so instead of saying hello or good morning or whatnot, often the men experience like they're ghost, and they're not there, because the person either goes to the other side of the street, or they look down at the sidewalk and they walk by, even though, as the men have reported to me, you know, I say good morning and how are you, and they don't say anything to me. And that really, I think, spiritually wounds them. It's like, gosh, it's like, to these people I don't even exist. And so we try to counter that in a very real, intentional, strong way. We are so glad you're here. We do see you. We know your name, and how can we serve you?
That you are a child of God. You're a person for whom God loves.
That's
and we loves.
absolutely right.
This is this coming together.
That's correct.
Yeah. So when you go back to the Great Depression, is kind of when it all started, and you know, I always think about that's kind of maybe a gauge that, at least in contemporary times, to say that that's maybe when times have been the worst, and then, you know, it kind of goes up. I mean, there's times where we go through those recessions where people are unemployed, and so it's just that same concept of, you know, saying, well, you're welcome here. Here's a place to get a meal.
Right.
And then out of that then came also then the housing.
Correct.
Yeah, and so like, okay, so you feed 200. Now, during the day, like with the meal program, is it just men that get fed, or can
No. Women, children, elderly, anyone.
That's when you have approximately 200 on average that come every day then. Wow, that's quite a ministry.
Yeah.
And how many people can you house at the shelter then? How many men can you house at the shelter?
So we have room for about 28 men, which are actual beds. The upstairs, the third floor dorm, is a number of single rooms. Some of them are double rooms, meaning that they have a bunk bed in them, because they're larger rooms, and so 2 guys can be in those. But many times, well, most of the time, we have cots out in the hallway too, because we have more people, more men in need than we have beds. Now, at this time during the winter, from November 1st till April, St. John's Lutheran Church down on White Street, they open up what was their youth room, but they've transitioned as a parish, so they don't have any young families anymore. So the youth room they have for the last 3 years fitted that with 12 beds, and our overflow. So when we have men come in during the winter and we don't have a bed for them, we check them in, but then we send them down to St. John's, and then they provide the overnight hospitality with a bed and shower and laundry and whatnot. And then the men come back to us during the day for the meals and job searching and whatnot. So that ministry will be closing here soon, and so the leftover men that are there will come back to the mission, and we'll find a place for them. But as it starts to get a little warmer, people move out, find a place, or move to another place, and so we have more beds available, but they quickly fill up. In the last 3 or 4 years, I'm not sure if it's just the economic continued sort of inching struggle we're having, but we have been full, mostly full every night. And so that's 30 men there. St. John's Lutheran can hold 12 men during the winter months, and then we have 3 transitional houses. So residents of ours that live at the mission, they can apply. So these would be guys that are working full-time or 35 hours or more, haven't had any write-ups, really motivated, doing well. They can apply to stay in one of our transitional houses for up to 2 years. And there they can save money, they have the support of staff in our services, and after that they really launch into independence. So we have, those 3 houses can have up to 15 additional men that we have there.
Collectively, between the 3, 15?
Yep, so
Okay.
altogether, there's about 50 men that we service through the mission ministries.
So it sounds like you got like a progression that you want to see them to say, well,
That's
to
correct.
begin with, we are here to provide,
Emergency shelter.
right, and then hopefully then some of them can then transition into the
Right.
transition house,
That's correct.
and then hopefully get them,
Into their own place.
yeah, independent living.
That's right, yep. And some of the guys will do that on their own. They don't even need the transitional house. Because of whatever circumstance created their homelessness, they get back on their feet, they have some resources, they get back with their job or find employment, find an apartment, and then just move on. But many of the men have layers of pain and woundedness that don't make them good candidates for work, or at least steady, ongoing work. Alcoholism is huge in our population that we serve. Emotional, mental health issues are another thing, drug abuse. And so they start way back on the field of opportunities. And so getting them through to understand some of those barriers, getting them the services and the help that they need to heal from some of the addictive thinking and patterns that they've been accustomed to for years, takes a long time. And for some of them, we achieve a certain level of freedom from that. And for others, they sort of limp along and then get with friends, hang out for 6 or 7 months or maybe another year, then find themselves back out on the street again. So there's some of that revolving door thing, mostly about their family and the environment that they grew up with just didn't have any structure.
We mentioned, some of the people, sometimes they can make an easy judgment about homeless. Well, they all are this. But you were mentioning that there are a lot of reasons why people end up this way. The economy can be down. Well, drugs, alcohol, some domestic problems, mental illness.
Yeah.
And those are some of the big ones, aren't there?
Oh,
Are there
yeah.
other ones
And
too?
those are major things that are going on. For example, to show how vulnerable we all are. So a few years ago, we had a fella that came to us, about 50, and a professor, very nice home, all the cars and his children in school and whatnot, and got an OWI and lost his license, but was able to still continue with getting rides to the university and with his wife. And but then some depression about that, and working through the classes to get his license back, he got another OWI, which meant he lost his license for up to 6 years. And more depression, was on a leave of absence from his teaching position. His wife, so this is over several months, the tension with that, she proceeds with divorce papers. In that, he gets another alcohol-related charge, not an OWI, but had to do some jail time. In that time, she gets custody of the children and leaves. And then he spends his entire savings, his retirement. They had to sell the house to get 2 lawyers to get joint custody back, and then found himself living in his truck on Thanksgiving Day with nowhere to go. Ended up at the mission. We got him back on his feet, helped with some legal things, getting him lawyers that helped him continue the proceedings to get his children back with his children. Now I'm speeding this up considerably, back teaching and back being productive in his life. So from that sort of thing to what people might understand as more common circumstances, long-going alcohol, drug addiction, mental health issues that are going on, if they've gotten their GED or not, lacking support from family or friends just use, and so it's that cycle that kind of keeps spinning around them, and they find themselves, sleeping on someone's couch, sleeping on someone's porch, nowhere to go, and that's getting them out of that cycle, and start moving through the barriers that are keeping them from being more productive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What a case study of a person
Mm-hmm.
who, living a very good, productive life, but how life can all of a sudden just spiral down to the point where here you are, and then, but thankfully that there are
Yeah.
people and a place that can get you to spiral back up,
Yep. Yep.
to encourage you and to get you back to where you need to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
and that's, what we like to hear, success stories
Yep.
of these rescue missions that you're not just enabling somebody along, but
Yeah.
you're actually really making a difference to
Yeah.
change and to bring a person
Yeah.
along.
Yeah, the title is really apt for, rescue missions. It is. It's throwing out that lifeline and saying, listen, you don't have to be out there. Come in. We are here to help. And it is. My staff, myself included, we are all there because of our faith, that Christ calls us to see Him. When I was hungry, you gave me food, thirsty, stranger, without a home, in prison. You came and did all these things for me. When? Well, when you did it to the least. So that's the mission of the Dubuque Rescue Mission is simply that, to see Christ in our brothers and sisters in need, and that Christ comes to us in the disguise of the poor. And they see it. They try to welcome everyone with dignity, respect, loving kindness, mercy, non-judgment. And most days we do that pretty well. And so the guys and other people who come recognize this is a good place. They really help you here. They try to understand you won't be judged no matter what you look like, no matter what has happened, no matter your orientation, no matter anything. We're going to, because God made you and God made you in His image, we're going to do everything we can to assist that you become who you have been created to be. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Well, when you talk about your staff and how the whole program is run, how many staff members do you have?
Well, we have a number of part-time staff, but our core sort of management team is about 8 of us. And then we have an additional 9 part-time people that help out, many of them in the store that are helping out, 8 or 10 or 12 hours a week with the 2 stores that we have, the mission stores. So we're always in need of volunteers. Volunteers are the base, the foundation of our ministry. Without them, we couldn't do the number of things that we do. And many of the volunteers that we have are from faith communities here in Dubuque. Others of them are people in businesses or corporations or agencies here in town who just want to assist and help make their community a better place. And the mission is one of those long-standing places where that can happen. So.
Yeah, so this is where churches, organizations, businesses can get involved.
Correct.
And so it's a matter of just contacting, and you can have the contact information up here on the screen.
Yeah.
And as far as, say, well, yeah, we're a church, and maybe a lot of our watching saying, oh yeah, our church is involved with the Dubuque Rescue Mission, and God bless them. But I'm just thinking, like, as far as churches to say, well, we're looking for a mission, we're looking for a way that we as a church can be a blessing to others, and this would be a way that we can do it, and to be able to contact you and
it's all there on our website, and or our phone number will help direct you as best we can, so that a service opportunity is detailed for your specific group, and that it's a meaningful experience. Lots of different youth groups, churches, Bible study groups, men's prayer groups. We try to access in a number of ways. As I noted when we started, the meal ministry is a big way that that happens, but especially for men out there in our churches and our faith communities and our businesses, if you want to have an opportunity to mentor any of our men, please contact me and I'll help you get connected with the guys. And sometimes they just need an advocate, someone to, give them a ride to an interview or to assist them to an AA or NA meeting or whatever it might be. So if you have any of those resources or gifts, please let us know, and we'll help you serve God in serving your brother and sister in need. Our gardens too, we have large gardens behind the mission, the greenhouse back there. It's another place where larger groups can have an experience of helping us grow food, which we then use for our meal ministry program. I've been there now 9 years, and I'm a huge gardener, and so when I arrived at the mission, and I'm a Dubuquer too, when I was looking and I saw this big green space behind the mission, which the city owned, they let us use it to grow vegetables. And so now we've got a couple different gardens and larger places where we grow thousands of pounds of vegetables for our meal ministry, and helping to create a more balanced, nutritious meal every time we serve it. Many times a lot of the food we get donated is highly processed, sugary, starchy stuff that sometimes isn't so good for any of us, but especially the marginalized who can tend to at times be overweight or diabetes or a lot of the common problems. So we've made a huge effort to have a balanced raw cooked vegetables as the main part, fruit, less carbohydrates, smaller protein portions and things like that. And it's been working, it's been beautifully working, and people are liking it. Their bodies, sort of craving that good food and wanting more of it. So that's been a real source of delight and happiness to see that shift kind of happening. And so the gardens is a huge way. The store too, we have 2 stores, 2 thrift stores. So if any of your listeners have furniture items, household items, we're pretty good on clothing, but we take clothing. These things are donated to the mission. We then either sell them to others who are looking for deals, which that money then helps run our ministries, or we give or at very reduced cost those items, beds, chairs, couches, to those who are coming out of the mission or out of other homeless shelters, like the women's shelters, and they get an apartment but they don't have anything to put in it. Mm-hmm. So that's a way that they can get some of the things that they need, and our stores do that. And if they have no source of income, we do that for free. So the stores is another big place that people can help us by donating items, but also by volunteering. We have lots of things that have to be sorted through, and so a number of people volunteer each week doing that. We also have a bicycle repair shop. I started that when I got there too, because these are sort of hobbies of mine, but cycling is another hobby. And after about a year of being the director of the mission, I discovered that, well, the men don't have license. Almost all of them didn't have license because of usually alcohol-related things. And so bikes became a primary source of transportation for them. So I said, well, we should have a repair shop so when bikes come in, the guys can work on those bikes, so a little skin in the game, and then they can get a bike for themselves to go to interviews, to go to work, and things like that. So that's been a huge success too. That's been going on for about 5 years now, our bicycle repair shop.
Oh, when I think about Europe and those European communities and cities, I mean, that's the norm. You ride a bike.
That's right.
And I think there's a lot of people who are, I'm a little bit off the subject, but wanting to get more of a biking culture.
Right.
To get people biking, and so it's not so unusual.
Right.
I mean, when you travel to Europe, it's just like, oh, this is normal now.
But, and I wish it would become more normal here.
And it's good for your health to ride a bike and to have a bike and to get around. Well, then, so you have the 2 stores and the bike shop and the gardens, and then you've got the place where the meals and the homeless shelter and then the transitional houses.
Correct.
But I would imagine you got in all the volunteers, but still, I would think that there would be a lot of, well, for instance, financial support and gifts in kind and things
Right.
that are needed to keep this ministry going.
Right.
And so here again, what all are you looking for? Well, I know, like, for instance, supporting and giving to these stores, but if somebody wanted to say, well, I don't have anything to give as far as a piece of furniture or whatever, but
Right.
how do I
Yeah.
support this very
Sure.
important and good mission?
Well, prayers, first of all, are absolutely necessary, for without God's grace, none of this happens. And yes, financial contributions is what we depend on too, just as other agencies. However, our budget's pretty tiny, and we do an amazing amount of service for the little amount of money that we have for a budget. But always, we have bills, we have staff that have to be paid, and so financial contributions are necessary. We try to create some of our own independence by creating capital out of the stores, so that that money that we do raise out of the stores helps pay for our salaries and utilities and things like that, which is about half of it. So, but the other half, we depend on our donors and the faithful to supply to us so that we can keep doing it for 80 more years.
Yeah, it's just really remarkable how long this ministry has
Yeah.
been going. And like you say, hopefully it'll always be a ministry. As Jesus said that, well, unfortunately, I mean, the poor are always with us, no
Right.
matter how hard we work at it. Whether it be economically down times or high times,
Right.
it seems like we always have this issue, and this is really Jesus' ministry. And so as we've been hearing Rick speak, that to be involved in Jesus' ministry, and that's what all of us as Christians want to be doing, is to be serving Jesus. And as Rick has already mentioned from Matthew chapter 25, that Jesus says that when you welcome the stranger, when you visit the sick, feed the hungry, clothe the naked, when you do it to one of the least of these, my people, you've done it to me. And so this is Rick Mim, the director of the Dubuque Rescue Mission. Thank you, Rick, so much for being on the program today. God bless
Real
you
pleasure.
and all your good work.
God's blessings to you too and your good work.
And thank you for joining us this day as well.